That's one small step for man and one giant man for the U of A. We'll tell you about one Arkansas commander who's joining the Space Force.
A third vaccine started rolling out today in the United States. All coming up on UATV, I'll tell you a little bit about the side effects from these vaccines.
500,000 lives lost to COVID-19. I'll tell you what life looks like after losing a loved one. UATV News starts right now.
Welcome to this Thursday night edition of UATV. I'm Lexi French.
And I'm Sydney Brooks. Thanks for joining us. University police investigate a report of rape on campus. According to yesterday's crime log, the rape allegedly took place in the Maple Hill East dormitory the morning of January 21st. This is the fourth report of rape so far this semester. This comes just 2 weeks after university officials sent a controversial email regarding the increase in reports of rape on campus.
The rate of new positive COVID cases in the state of Arkansas decreased today. However, the Arkansas Department of Health still reports over 4,200 active cases today across the state. 12 new deaths were also reported today, and Washington falls second in line for most cases by county with 57. And cases here on the U of A campus continue to remain relatively low. The university reported one new positive case in its latest update, resulting in 14 active cases and 0 new recoveries.
Last week, the United States hit the dark milestone of 500,000 COVID-19 deaths. While hope is on the horizon with vaccinations underway, many families are still far from recovering. UATV's Heidi Kirk is live outside of Shiloh Christian High School to look back on some of those lives lost to COVID-19. Heidi?
Sydney, I'm live outside of Shiloh Christian High School in Springdale, where Carly Haas's grandpa used to attend her sporting events. However, tonight the bleachers are empty, reminiscent of a life lost. The return to pre-pandemic life is within reach, with vaccinations actively accelerating. But for some, life won't go back to normal.
He kind of was like a force that held our whole family together.
On New Year's Day, Carly Haas lost her grandpa to COVID-19 complications. Carly's grandpa is one of more than 500,000 lives taken too soon. A beloved father, grandpa, and a pastor, he left behind a lifelong legacy.
There's a lot of people I know that have reached out and said that he had such an impact on them.
With hospitals following COVID-19 safety protocol, Carly, like many others, wasn't able to say goodbye. Jack Bilyeu is mourning the loss of his grandma, who he hadn't seen since before the pandemic.
We called her Susie. We didn't have a crazy pet name for her, and then my grandpa was Pops. So we'd hang out with Pops and Susie all the time. They were the built-in babysitters.
Jack told me that his final memory with Susie is bittersweet, and he is grateful that he can remember her before she contracted the virus.
We brought her favorite kind of pie, and we all ate together and sat with her, and it was a really nice memory, and that was the last time we were all there with her. And then, of course, just 3 months later is when the world started to shut down.
One thing that Carly and Jack have in common is the advice that they offer for others that are coping with a loss. They both emphasize the importance of family and leaning on your loved ones in a time of grieving. Now, Jack and Carly both told me that they have upped their COVID-19 precautions after losing a loved one. Live in Springdale, Heidi Kirk, UATV News.
For those dealing with the loss of a loved one, CAPS offers grief counseling for the campus community.
President Joe Biden held a press conference earlier this week updating Americans on the newest vaccine information. Johnson & Johnson joined Pfizer and Moderna as vaccine distributors after receiving its emergency use authorization last Saturday. Originally, President Biden had said his administration would have enough vaccines by July. However, in his press conference, he sped up his timeline after pharmaceutical manufacturer Merck teamed up with Johnson & Johnson to quickly produce its one-shot COVID vaccine.
This country will have enough vaccine supply, I'll say it again, for every adult in America by the end of May.
President Biden also announced he would direct states to prioritize teachers in their vaccination plans in a bid to reopen schools. And Governor Asa Hutchinson expanded COVID vaccination Phase 1B to include meat processing workers. As many as 49,000 food manufacturers can now receive their COVID vaccination. Meat processors like Tyson Foods faced backlash for their coronavirus responses early in the pandemic.
The state of Arkansas continues to vaccinate those who belong in Phase 1B. Through federal and state programs, the ADH reports over 18,000 doses were administered today. Arkansas brought in almost 50,000 doses today. Since vaccinations began, the state has given almost 700,000 vaccines.
As more vaccines become available and eligibility is expanded, many Arkansans are scheduled to receive a COVID-19 vaccination in the coming months. UATV's James Morgan has more on what you need to know about the vaccine's potential side effects. James?
Thanks, Lexi. Now, experts are still wondering who exactly will receive symptoms from the COVID-19 vaccine. And with President Biden's plan to vaccinate more than 300 million Americans by the end of May, these vaccines are going to start becoming readily available. Now, with vaccines becoming available in pharmacies, there's a lot of discussion about these side effects from the vaccines. Now, these side effects can range from mild to even no symptoms at all, with some just experiencing a mild aching in the injection point. But this vaccine side effect means that the actual vaccine is doing its work.
I actually prefer to call them an immune response because the side effects really, in essence, are just telling us that the vaccine is working and that our body is in fact producing an immune response to coronavirus.
Symptoms typically only last 24 to 36 hours from the point of your dosage. Now, with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine coming out, the vaccines are still going to have the same symptoms as the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines. Now, I received the Moderna vaccine earlier this week, and apart from a slight soreness in my left arm, I really didn't have any symptoms. Reporting live for UATV, I'm James Morgan.
To find out more about the 3 approved COVID-19 vaccines, you can visit the Arkansas Department of Health or the CDC's website.
The university's Women's Giving Circle will honor International Women's Day with a virtual event next Monday. President of the Women's Giving Circle will serve as a moderator of the event, which will feature 4 panelists. This event will include a conversation about women empowerment and a celebration of women's achievements.
One Razorback takes command of the Stars. Air Force ROTC instructor and Lieutenant Colonel Brian W. Capps received a commission into the U.S. Space Force. Capps is the first University of Arkansas military instructor to receive this commission. The Razorback Air Force ROTC has commissioned officers of distinction for 72 years.
University Recreation hosts its annual Running of the Hogs on Saturday. The 5 and 10K race looks a bit different, though, for social distancing measures. The in-person race has a limited capacity, while UREC offers a virtual race as well. Participants can run their own virtual race through Saturday, March 20th. Capitol Hill debate begins today on President Biden's COVID stimulus package, when you could expect a decision from lawmakers on the big spending bill.
And one of the nation's largest states made a controversial change in the COVID battle this week. Find out how this change could affect Arkansas, coming up after the break.
United States senators began debating President Biden's $1.9 billion COVID relief package today. Senate members voted to open debate on the legislation this afternoon, with Vice President Harris casting a tie-breaking vote. A potential final decision could come towards the end of the weekend.
While debate is underway on Biden's COVID relief bill in the Senate, Arkansas senators took to Twitter to offer their opinions on the legislation, with Senator Tom Cotton tweeting, quote, "Less than 10% of the funding in the $1.9 trillion bill before the Senate is for COVID relief. The American people deserve relief, but instead Democrats are trying to force through a bill filled with funding for left-wing priorities," end quote.
with Senator John Boozman stating, quote, "It's not a relief bill, that's a misnomer. It spends little on public health or real relief, but uses taxpayer money to bail out poorly run, mismanaged state and local governments," end quote.
Some U.S. states are starting to lift COVID-19 restrictions, leaving many Arkansans to wonder whether or not Arkansas will be next. Rebecca Pipes has more on this story. Rebecca?
Thanks, Sydney. With millions of citizens across the country getting vaccinated and hospital rates finally but slowly going down, one Arkansas border state has released its hold on COVID restrictions.
Now time to open Texas 100%.
On Tuesday, Texas State Governor Greg Abbott announced the lifting of COVID restrictions for the state. With successful turnouts of the vaccine, Abbott says these restrictions are no longer necessary. Dr. Anthony Fauci disagrees.
We want to do that gradually and not all of a sudden abruptly.
William Cook, a Razorback alum and current UT Austin law student, told me his opinions on the governor's decision.
That was just said as kind of like an anecdotal, like we're Texas, we have, the right to individual determination of how we handle things. And I think, there's just a whole lot of policy reasons why that's a bad approach.
In a series of tweets, Governor Abbott emphasized the importance of allowing Texans to make the right decisions for themselves regarding their safety and health.
I think to say that the people of Texas on an individual basis should be able to determine their own, policy, COVID policy, is kind of a dereliction of the duty of an elected official. If we elect a governor to set policy and run the state from, an executive position, then him saying no rules, do what you want, is just kind of him avoiding kind of the duty of his job.
Now, I got to speak with Mayor of Fayetteville, Lionel Jordan, and he told me that he has no personal comment at this time, but that the city of Fayetteville is going to continue following the directives of Governor Asa Hutchinson and the ADH. Reporting at City Hall, Rebecca Pipes, UATV News.
Thanks, Rebecca. Governor Asa Hutchinson has not released a statement in response to Texas at this time. This will be a developing story as more information regarding Arkansas is released. Additional funding gets clearance to land in Northwest Arkansas. How airports in our area benefit from government funding.
Springdale gets approval for a long-requested restaurant. How chicken fans in the area can get their fix.
Northwest Arkansas National Airport receives a federal grant to help with expenses related to COVID-19. U.S. Congressman Steve Womack confirmed over the weekend that the local airport will get $4.3 million from the Department of Transportation. The funds are allocated from a congressional act that passed last year.
Applications for emergency rental assistance are now available for Springdale residents. Persons interested in applying can print out the various forms at the Springdale Housing Authority website. Completed actions can be emailed, faxed, or brought to the Springdale office. Applications are available in English, Spanish, and Marshallese.
And Springdale residents can expect to eat more chicken soon. The City Planning Commission approved plans to open the first Springdale Chick-fil-A. The fast food restaurant is plated just west of the highway on Sunset Avenue. The news comes after years of debate on how much traffic a new Chick-fil-A could build up.
Several Washington County towns went under a boil water order Wednesday. Residents of Greenland, West Fork, and the Wallen Mountain pressure plain were informed of a water main break at Drake Field, which caused the issue. Those living in the affected areas will be notified once the notice is lifted.
The City of Fayetteville announced its spring 2021 bulky cleanup dates. Cleanup days provide Fayetteville residents an opportunity to dispose of large items that cannot be disposed in regular trash carts. Cleanup days will take place every Saturday in April. For more information, visit City of Fayetteville's website.
The Lady Razorbacks started their postseason. Find out how they're faring.
And the Omahags look to continue their undefeated season over the weekend. All this and more next on UATV Sports.
Good evening, I'm Jordan Relaford here with your Razorback Sports Update. Now let's shift gears to the women's basketball team who have recently moved up in the AP polls from number 16 to number 13. The women's basketball team will be competing tonight in the first round of the SEC tournament against the Ole Miss Land Sharks in Greenville, South Carolina. The Razorbacks are 6th seed in the tournament. Tip-off for that game will be at 7:30 on the SEC network. The women's SEC tournament is being hosted in Greenville, South Carolina. The last time the two teams faced off, the Razorbacks defeated Ole Miss 84-74. The Razorbacks finished their regular season 19-7, while the Ole Miss finishes 10-10. The key player for tonight's game will be Chelsea Dungy, who scored a season high of 38 points the last time the two teams faced off. The winner of tonight's game will advance to the second round to face the 3rd seed Tennessee Lady Volunteers tomorrow night. Moving on to the Omahags, the undefeated Razorbacks are looking to further their current 7th game winning streak this weekend against the Murray State Racers. While the Razorbacks are undefeated, Murray State sits at 5-3. The rotation for pitchers this game series will be Peyton Pallett, Caleb Bolden, and Lyle Lockhart Jr. The number 1 ranked Razorback baseball team takes on Murray State at Walker Stadium as a part of their 3-game series starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. on the SEC Network Plus. The number 12 ranked Arkansas men's basketball team are still on a winning streak, having won 10 games in a row. The Razorbacks will be facing off against the unranked Texas A&M Aggies for their final conference game this Saturday at Bud Walton. Tip-off will start at 4 p.m. The Aggies are coming off a loss against Mississippi State last night with the score being 63-57. This was the first game of the Texas A&M Aggies since January 26, giving the Razorbacks a slight advantage for Saturday's matchup. Again, tip-off for the final game of the regular season will be Saturday at 4 p.m. With the SEC tournament starting next week, the Razorbacks are currently projected to be the 2nd seed with the Alabama Roll Tide as 1st seed. That's all for UATV Sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Northwest Arkansas residents enjoyed another warm day here in Fayetteville.
These sunny skies won't last long with rain rolling through the region tomorrow and highs in the low 50s.
The warmer weather is back on Saturday with highs in the low 60s.
A Staples streaming service announced an update to their mobile app.
Netflix is now incorporating a Fast Laughs tab for those looking for a quick comedy fix.
The tab includes short clips from films, sitcoms, and stand-up specials.
As of now, the tab is only available for iPhone users, but is coming soon to Android.
That's all the time we have for UATV News. I'm Sydney Brooks.
I'm Lexi French. Have a great night.